everyone, and welcome to the Core Vitality Summit. My name is Yvonne Britton, and I am joined today by Dr. Sherri Greene. Welcome, Dr. Greene, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today, Yvonne. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Just to get started, Dr. Greene, would you mind just giving us a brief introduction to yourself and what it is you do?
Absolutely. So I am traditionally trained as a podiatrist and surgeon, of which I practice for many years. I've been in practice about 27 years now. When I got out of my residency and my training and I got into private practice, I started to notice that some people would get better quickly, others not so much, with the same exact issues and problems, using the same techniques and protocols that I learned in school. And I got really curious as to why some people would improve and other people would struggle. And that really led me on a journey into the true ideas about healing and what else was involved with healing mind, body, and spirit, and how they all interplayed together. And I started to study a lot of different alternative modalities for healing. I got very into nutrition and energy work and hands-on healing work. And I just started to incorporate everything into my traditional practice and started to integrate all of it together, so that over time I began to find other ways of getting people better without drugs and surgery, which was much more appealing to me. And so the other things started to fall away more and more, and I just got deeper involved in the art of healing and helping people to access that ability within themselves as well.
Oh, I love that. The art of healing. That's very, very nice way to say it. So I know that you're on the Healing Ambassadors website, and what it says there that everyone that's there is dedicated to sharing the healing work of Anthony William, medical medium, and we're all, many of us are very familiar with his protocols. Would you mind telling us how you got involved in the work of Anthony?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I've always been a searcher and a seeker, and I've always been looking for what else could help my patients and myself. And I think it's always a self-healing journey in regards with most practitioners who go into the healing arts. And so I was working on my own physical challenges, and I had a friend who actually had breast cancer at the time who came across, somebody referred her to Anthony, and she sent me his information and asked me to check it out for her and to see what I thought. And so that's when I originally went on his site and I started looking around, and I knew right away just by the feel of him and what was being said that this was something very special. And so I told her absolutely to go forward, and I actually put myself on his list at that time, and thankfully I got connected with him back then.
Wow, lucky you.
Yeah, it was amazing, and we hit it off with him immediately and talked about my practice and different things that I started asking him about foot problems and chronic problems that people had that I saw all the time. And it was just it was an amazing conversation, and he was absolutely able to give me extremely valuable pieces of what was going on for me at that time to help me on my healing journey. And so it was more of a, for me, it was more of a uterus, endocrine, all that kind of system for myself. So he was really incredibly helpful for me.
Well, that's very nice that it was helpful for you, but also for your practice, and that you're now able to help people in a very different way, I suppose.
I knew immediately I knew immediately when I was getting that information that this was going to be a really important part of my practice going forward.
So now that you're you've had your Anthony experience and you're lucky enough to pass it on to other people, when looking at food, Dr. Greene, what do you recommend in general, and how can the food that we eat impact our well-being?
Yeah, back many years ago, I always, when I first started bringing nutrition into my practice and started working with chronic inflammatory pain with people, and I became overly impressed when I changed somebody's diet, how pain would dissipate pretty dramatically at times. So I've been around the block, as you'd say, with lots of different ideas about foods and different belief systems and ways of approaching it, and have explored and actually used my body as a experiment a lot to different ways of eating. And I think the bottom line, which is also Anthony's message, is just having a high plant-based diet, a diet high fruits and vegetables, because on an energetic level, they are the highest vibrational foods here, and they're extremely uplifting, and all the phytonutrients and antioxidants in fruits and vegetables is just so paramount for our health and well-being and longevity. So whatever somebody is choosing to do, having a diet high in fruits and vegetables is really super key.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And if you look also at other factors like exercise and supplements, how do they fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, well, I would say, in regards to exercises, that movement is super important on some level for people to get exercise, just because it's helpful for flexibility, lymphatic drainage, getting toxins out of the body. It's mentally and emotionally uplifting as well, and that's been scientifically studied as a lot. And just the aspect of sweating and movement and moving your muscles is really, really important. So I think getting some sort of exercise, and it really depends on who you are and what you're struggling with. I mean, even taking a walk outside is exercise, and that's brilliant. I love yoga, so I do love movement, actually, where you can be barefoot, because I think being barefoot is super powerful and energetically stimulating and balancing for the whole body. So that's important as well. And as far as supplements, it's always food first for me. And I think, as it's said, food is definitely medicine, and can be used that way. And but I also do believe that it's very hard for people to get enough fruits and vegetables into their diet. And sometimes when people are depleted in certain vital nutrients, that we do have to supplement with them. And they are, just a supplement, as the word says. It's an extra thing to do. And then when somebody's dealing with chronic conditions, sometimes we have to add in extra things to really just bring that body back into balance. So I'm a big believer in herbs and spices and specific nutrients to help bring back balance to the body. And so it doesn't mean forever, but it means for a period of time when you're, maybe struggling with certain conditions. And there are some supplements that I know for me I will take for life as a support. We live in a pretty toxic environment, and our systems get depleted with stress of our own stress, the world stress, environmental stress that depletes certain minerals and vital nutrients from our body. So supplementing with that can be really important.
What type would that be? Like your vitamin C or zinc and the B12 type of thing? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure, that B12 is so important. The B12 supplement, the zinc supplement, vitamin C is key. I also, and then, I'm a big believer for magnesium in women. I think that women are pretty depleted from magnesium. And, I love spirulina, like some of the superfoods and the barley grass juice. Like, these are concentrated nutrients that are, in a powder form to just, bring up the level of nutrition, absorbable nutrition that you can put into your body.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Do you, for somebody that comes to you who's been struggling, would you immediately get them to start maybe with celery juice or cucumber juice or the lemon water? Is that something you recommend when people come to you?
Yeah, it's really important, and I've learned this lesson probably the hard way at times at the beginning, is really meeting people where they're at. There is a lot of resistance to be able to change your diet. There's, food is emotional, and there's addictions, and there's a lot of difficulty being able to get people to change, and they can become very overwhelmed. And I would say one of the things that when I can feel the resistance from somebody wanting to make too many changes, is I ask them just to do lemon water in the morning and possibly another time through the day. And so that's like an easy no-brainer that everybody would agree to, is having a glass of water and squeezing some fresh lemon in it. That's usually one that can fly by.
Yeah, and I suppose it's easy to do, and it gives the benefits as well. No, I find myself it already gives me more energy.
Absolutely.
When I'm doing the lemon water. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one, the lemon water. And you mentioned now resistance. So this, it personally fascinates me that we know whether it's a change to the diet or like getting in some kind of exercise. For some people, it's really difficult, and there is a lot of resistance. What do you recommend? Like, there's the tip there about just getting the lemon water to start, but what do you tend to recommend to people who really are struggling with the change? Maybe they're in a house where they're the only person who's going to eat, a plant-based diet. So, what kind of recommendations do you give in general?
In general, it's like I'm trying to find what that person's motivation is, because I think it's really about what's going to motivate you. And a lot of times, unfortunately, fear is a good motivator. And sometimes someone who's being sick or having, a crisis in their life, that's a real strong motivator to want to change. But I do connect it with intuitively being able to listen to one's body and looking at it as an act of self-care and self-love. So I try to say, we kind of go over it, and like I said, only pick one or two things to work on so that somebody can kind of adjust to like a small change. I think it has to be small, especially when there's a lot of resistance, because there's, like I said, there's so many habits that we've developed and food addictions, and most people just don't want to think about it. And I think that's part of it, because when you start to give somebody a dietary change and they have to actually start thinking now, like, well, what am I going to eat, or what can I eat, or I have to go shopping more often, or I have to do some prep work, rather than like going to wherever, picking up a breakfast sandwich or a donut or a muffin. They might need to, prepare. And I think when you can help them, give them ideas and help them prepare, and like kind of chunk it down into small little steps about preparation, and maybe giving them an alternative recipe, something to try, that seems to be not so overwhelming. To change one meal of the day, like maybe it is their breakfast, maybe it is beginning celery juice and just celery juice, or maybe it is beginning like a smoothie and how to create that smoothie and what it involves. And I think when you get them like really involved in it, and they recognize it's not so hard, it's just a matter of a habit that they had that we have to form a new habit. And so it's really a mindset thing. I think it's such a mental thing when it comes to all of this, because mind and emotions and all these things are connected, so we can't really separate it out. So like, you can't just change somebody's diet without dealing with the emotions of changing somebody's diet. Because I was just working with a woman who were trying to get to change, and she's recently lost her husband a couple of years ago, and she moved, and so she's got certain comfort foods that are helping her right now. So she's not able to take away cheese or dairy right now, just because it's nourishing and nurturing, and to take that away from her at a vulnerable time might be hard. So we try to add some other things in until she's ready to make another change, where something can be taken out. So it really, like I said, it really depends on the person, what they're ready to do. Some people come in ready to like make the change. They're really motivated, and they've already, had some experience with this, and they're not as attached to the food, and they just want to feel better. And, I do believe that people's taste buds start to change, as I'm sure you know, as you change your diet, what your cravings start to change, and what you crave starts to change. You just have to get people through that transitional period when they're first starting. And, we're also bombarded. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, yeah.
We're also so bombarded by outside forces like commercials and what's in our face everywhere when you walk on the streets. Like, I live in Manhattan, and, there's a million restaurants here, and food is entertainment in a big way. And so it's connected in so many things to family. And so when you step out and you want to do something different that's different from the people around you, that's not always easy. I've had that challenge myself, and not everybody around you is giving you the most support, and you kind of have to be strong in your convictions to do things, because you're doing it as an act of self-care and self-love to improve on your health and well-being. And I think other people get threatened by that, the ones around you that don't quite understand what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Very true. It's funny that you mentioned the taste buds, because how they change, because when I mentioned, actually just today, I mentioned to someone about the celery juice, and it's like, oh, but who knew that celery juice, it actually tastes good to me now, and it depends on the celery as well, but I find it actually tastes quite sweet now.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to drink, but everyone's like, what?
I know. People don't understand it, and it does. Like, celery juice is like amazing, and not everybody can see that right away, and your taste buds do change, and it does taste so sweet. And I also think it's linked with how you feel when you drink it, and what the actual effect is on your body. And I think that's what, and I know I've had patients who have done it, and then they've walked away from it for a while, and then they felt the difference, and then when they came back to it, immediately they felt like, oh my God, I've missed this. And so that's really powerful.
Yeah, and many of your symptoms in my own personal experience, I've dealt a lot with migraines, and I think I got a little bit too confident at one point, and I was like, yeah, I'm okay now. And then it came back, and where I live, there's celery, like the wider stalks that are whiter, and it used to be sweeter. But in winter, I really struggle. It's like thin, and it's really deep green, and the taste is different. So I do tend to be at my best during the summer months where it's readily available, I must say. But when I stop, I really notice it. And when I go back, sometimes I just know that I need to go back to it, and right now, I'm very lucky. We're in summer, and there's an abundance of it, and I'm just making the most of it.
That's wonderful.
That's wonderful. That. Yeah, it's really great. But you mentioned that the food is entertainment, and like sometimes you're not doing what everyone else is doing. But do you think on the other side, sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves to eat 100% perfect? Have you found cases like that?
Oh yeah, that can easily happen. I think that's a something that, as long when there, you have struggled and you've been in pain, or you've been sick and you're bedridden, or whatever is happening, what the symptoms that are taking you out of your life in the way that, you want to be, and you're doing a protocol, or you're doing something, and there's maybe a little fear in there. If you do something outside of your protocol, you're going to get sick, or you're not going to be well, and you can get very hypervigilant about things. And I do know that personally, and I understand it. And so I think everything is about balance and finding that balance for yourself. We're in this world, and it has its challenges, and you do the best you can. in every moment, and, you know, you don't beat yourself up if you did eat something or you fall off a little, and you come back, you just always come back to it. And it's just like information. If you look at it just like information, like how do I feel when I eat this way, or how do I feel when I eat that way? And trust that you're always protected. You know, I think that's a big message too, when you feel like you can't always get what you want, maybe the best ingredients, or you're traveling somewhere. And I think somehow we have to know we are protected and we are safe and all is well.
Yeah, that's something to be really conscious of every day. It's sometimes easy to lose track. Yeah. Yeah,
I think certain personalities, you know, these highly motivated type A personalities who like kind of drive head forward into something, and they're just very disciplined. And there's some people that are more disciplined than others. And I think, you know, it's always whoever you are, it's always a lesson on what life presents, to be able to flow more, just to flow and be flexible. And I know I personally work on that myself a lot.
Yeah, me too, actually. That was, I can really resonate with it when you mentioned before, you know, by doing everything as best you can, then it made me think of that I'm definitely guilty of that one, and I do have to work on it.
Yeah, it's a common one. You know, it's like you either have one extreme or the other. And for me personally, I do know that, you know, I get my head set on something and I want to do it a certain way. And if I can't, and, you know, it's about letting go of control. Sometimes we have no choice. And we're faced sometimes with situations where we do have to just completely let go and surrender. And I would say that's not an easy task for some, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely work in progress for me personally right now. The letting go and surrendering. Yeah. Dr. Greene, when you see people get better, so you've obviously seen a lot of people. What kind of time frames have you seen as a range for people to actually turn their health around? And I know it's a tricky question because some people take longer than others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that's probably one of the most common questions I get is, well, how long do I have to stay on this diet? Or how long is it going to take for me to get better? And, you know, and I understand that question for sure, because, you know, nobody wants to not feel well and nobody wants to be sick. And if they're doing something that is outside of their, you know, comfort zone and needing to be I love the saying of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and how that comes up a lot. And so I would say that I've seen everything, run the gamut of people turn things around, you know, within 3 months. And then I've seen it take like a couple of years with people. And it really depends on, you know, how long you've been sick, and you have to put things into perspective for patients because, you know, they try something new and they want to see results quickly. So you have to look at, I think, you know, somebody wants something, the biggest symptom to go away, but there's all these other little things that have started to improve. So let's say they have horrible fatigue, but, you know, they started to poop better, their digestion is a little bit better, and they're sleeping a little bit better, but they're still like extremely fatigued. So they're just looking at that being fatigued aspect that's not improving yet, so it feels like they're not improving sometimes. So I think it's really about communicating and really talking with patients about their process and what's happening and spending the time. I think one of the things that's most important to me as a doctor, which I think is missing in medicine, is really being able to spend that quality time with the patient. They want to be supported. They want to know you're there. They want to know you're listening. And you can give them some real good guidance and feedback. And so when it comes to, I think, getting better and how quickly, I find my biggest role is to be that cheerleader for that patient, to keep reminding them they are getting better. Even if they don't see the outward symptom of it, their cells are changing, their body's changing. Things are shifting all the time towards wellness. Your body's always striving towards wellness. And you got to inspire them. You know, there has to be some inspirational factor. And that's why sometimes when you go to a doctor and you just come back with a bunch of stuff and then you're on your own, it doesn't always work so well because they can lose inspiration quickly. And I think it's important to be able to be in communication and to give that patient the support that they need as best as you can. I mean, you're only one person, but, you know, you kind of keep them engaged and motivated so that they don't stop and quit too soon, because, you know, the healing journey is the journey. It's not the end game. And you learn so much when you go through a process of being either in chronic pain or some kind of disease process that's like really a big struggle and debilitating on a lot of levels. It's really one of those things that gets you just find out how strong you really are.
Yeah, that's true. That's true for sure. When you see, or do you have some kind of like stories or examples, or, you know, even if it's quite general, that you could share with us when you've actually witnessed that turnaround, that people that have stuck with it and they have done it and they have made the changes? Yeah. Sure.
You know, I definitely have over the years have seen lots of different shifts and changes, mostly with people. I tend to, you know, in my podiatry practice alone, I've seen people who have been to many other doctors, and they come in not with just a foot problem, but they come in with all kinds of different conditions, thyroid conditions and brain fog conditions and sleep issues and digestive problems. I mean, it's all connected, and so I've always looked at a person from that perspective. They've never been like just a foot patient. They've always been a whole body and mind and soul that has come in. So I think what I've seen most is that, in general, is that issue resolves, the pain resolves. People with, you know, acid reflux, helping people patients get off of medications. I've seen thyroid medications reduce and be eliminated, diabetes medications be reduced and be eliminated. And I think that in general, like back problems and neck problems and shoulders and wrists and just giving people their life back, that they're back in their life and pain-free and know their body much more intimately than they did when they started, because just having a different approach to health and wellness, rather than saying we're going to give you a shot or looks like we have to do surgery. And not that any of those things are bad. You know, I use homeopathic injections in my practice, which work phenomenally, and they just don't have that side effect that cortisone shots have. So there's lots of different options, and using herbs and herbal formulas for inflammation. And, you know, I do work with some cancer patients and really helping them to support them to turn things around in their bodies and mind, soul, spirit. So overall, it's really, for me as a doctor, the best way to practice, because you do see the greatest changes with people in lots of different areas when you start to say they come in for one issue, that they think they just have one issue, but then you look at this whole symptom intake and look at all these other things that they were not connecting all the dots for themselves. So there's always a greater awareness that somebody leaves with, even if it's not like completely everything resolved within, you know, a few months. Like I said, it's a process, and just giving people the opportunity to look differently at their body and why things are happening, and connect emotions and stress to different issues, and how to help patients shift that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a whole different interview, the topic of the stress and emotion, to connect them to, that's, definitely worth a lot of attention. I think it really is.
Yeah, it is. It's a big issue. I feel like we live in a very fast world, and things are changing and shifting all the time, and our bodies are shifting, and like Anthony talks about the quickening, and there's a lot of, I think people are waking up a lot more than they have before, and it is time to take care of ourselves and each other in a different way than we have in the planet. And we have to look at what we've been doing and the destructive nature that has been going on so that we can make a different choice. And it is always about every day making a choice. Like, is it your choice to do some lemon water this morning? Is your choice to have some celery juice? Like, what are you going to choose? And every choice you make is a responsibility that you have to yourself and the planet and each other. And it also is so empowering as well to know that the choices that you make, and when you educate yourself about different ideas and options and really participate in your own healing journey, I think that that's so important.
It definitely is, and we're actually at the end of the time, Dr. Greene, but I think that's an amazing way to finish the interview. Thank you for that, that you do have a choice. Everyone, you have a choice what you do every day. Actually, it might come down to, in 1 second what you choose to do, whether you have your juice or you don't have your juice, or what you do, and that you can participate in your own healing. So I think that's a great note to end on. But I would like to just ask you, where can people find you? So I know that you're on the Healing Ambassadors website. Are you on Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a website. It's just Dr. Sherri, Sherri Greene, Greene, .com. And I am on Facebook under Dr. Sherri Greene as well. You can search it. And I am on Instagram at Dr. Sherri Greene. And those are probably the biggest areas that, I participate and post when I can, and just participate, and happy to answer questions and for patients. And, I think community is so important, and having like-minded people and practitioners around you just to keep you engaged and part of, we're doing this together. We're not doing it alone.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
definitely. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the work that you do. I think it's making such a difference.
Oh, thank you so much for what you're doing, Yvonne. I appreciate you getting all this information out there and exposing all the work of Anthony and all the practitioners, and letting people know that there are places to go for support and for help. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
All right. You have a